Welcome, dear watcher. As you settle into your bed, feel free to close your eyes. Let the soft pillow cradle your head, the blankets wrap you in warmth. Tonight, we will drift gently into the quiet world of medieval routine, where the simple act of washing worn shoes and socks becomes a moment of calm, of closeness to a time long past. Imagine a small courtyard bathed in early morning light. A wooden bucket nearby holds cool, clear water from the well. A simple stool sits beneath a low eave, your companion in this daily ritual. There is no hurry, no urgency, only the deliberate, unhurried pace of hands tending to cloth and leather. In this hour of peaceful routine, you are invited into a centuries-old rhythm, the careful cleansing of shoes and socks. A humble act, but one that echoes with human care. As we embark, listen to the faint hush of water, the soft brush strokes over fabric, the gentle squeeze of excess moisture. Let these sounds guide your breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale. In medieval Europe, whether in a humble peasant hut or a modest cottage in a walled town, cleaning footwear was both necessity and ritual. While today we may think of laundry as a noisy chore, in those quieter eras, it could be almost meditative. If we explore each step, each material, each gesture slowly, there is a serenity to be found. We begin at the end. Picture yourself with your hands in that cool water, holding a pair of woolen socks, sodden from the night's wear. The fibers are rough against your skin, but already the water softens them. You let droplets fall back into the bucket, watching ripples form in circles that expand and disappear, just as time flows onward, gently. Here, small actions matter. The ritual of using a simple wooden brush or handful of soft sand, as some did, becomes a moment to mindfully scrub away not just dirt, but the arduousness of the day. Shoes, too, perhaps made of sturdy leather or coarse fabric or even repurposed hides. Washing them requires patience, dipping, lathering, wiping, repeating until even the color softens, until the items feel lighter, almost clean enough to begin again the next morning. We'll travel through centuries of these rituals, lingering on moments of warmth and care. The simmer of herbal infusions used to soften leather, the gentle stretching of wool to ease instead of damage it, the transformative breath of crisp outside air, drying freshly washed cloth by the hearth. Let your own breath settle alongside each step. In the hush between words, allow yourself to drift further toward rest. Let the images and textures of medieval quietude carry you deeper into sleep's embrace. You are safe here. There is nothing to accomplish, nothing to fear, just slow, deliberate presence. Together, we'll unfold chapters in this serene craft. The materials themselves, each stage of cleansing, domestic preparations, sources of warmth, and the deeper rhythms of medieval domestic life. So, please, close your eyes. Draw a gentle breath in. If you wish, you may exhale slowly with each scene we share. This time belongs to stillness. This is your moment of soft repose, guided by ancient hands that cared for simple things, shoes and socks that carried feet across humble fields and narrow village streets. And now, it is time to begin. Close your eyes once more, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth in gentle rhythm. Picture yourself in a small courtyard of a medieval cottage, just as dawn light begins to drift across its weathered stones. The air is quiet and cool, yet carrying a soft warmth from the sleeping earth. In this hushed hour, you prepare to begin a simple ritual, gathering materials and preparing water to to wash a pair of shoes and woolen socks. This is not a chore. It is a moment of calm care. At your feet rests a wooden bucket made of hand-shaped staves and held together with woven rope or iron hoops. You bend to lift it, feeling its cool weight in your hands. The bucket sits beside a well, just a few steps away, but in this moment, you imagine retrieving fresh, clear water from deep underground. The bucket emerges dripping, droplets trembling at the edge before falling back into the well. You carry it to a small table or low stool, setting it down with quiet intention. The water within the bucket is fresh and pure, crisp on your skin when you allow a fingertip to touch its surface. You notice how it ripples in concentric circles, like time unfolding in slow motion. In medieval Europe, water came from wells, rivers, springs, sometimes rain gathered off rooftops. Each source carried its own life, and you treat it with respect. Even the simplest domestic rituals were rooted in gratitude for this clarity. While you draw the water, your mind becomes still, feeling the bucket's sides, noting the subtle movement of the wooden staves as water sloshes inside. You begin to settle. Your breathing deepens. There is no rush. There is only presence. Once the bucket is full, you move it gently closer to your workspace. Before you, on a low bench or stool, lies a small cauldron or clay pot, an instrument for warming the water. You choose to warm half the bucket's water over a small hearth embers. Leather and wool are delicate. Too much heat would shrink or felt the wool socks, and leather would stiffen and crack. So you warm it just enough. A gentle caress of comfort, not scalding. With careful hands, you dip an old ladle, a carved wooden spoon, into the water and pour it into the cauldron. The water swirls quietly. Perhaps there's a faint hiss as warm embers nudge it to a comfortable temperature. You dip a finger in, watch the tiny bubbles retreating, listening for its soothing clarity. It's perfect, neither too hot nor too cold, but comfortably lukewarm. Beside you rest the tools of this slow ritual. A soft brush carved from hardwood, with bristles from animal hair, the kind used for beeswax stirring or gentle scrubbing. A bundle of clean linen scraps, paler than daylight, reserved to pat dry or blot moisture. Perhaps you also gather small handfuls of herbs, soapwort roots for gentle lather, yarrow for a soft color, fuller's earth or clay as stain-absorbing powder. Occasionally, scraps of wood ash, soaked to release mild alkali juices. All these substances were known in the Middle Ages for their use in laundering and for tending fabrics carefully and without harm. The brush is smooth in your palm. You feel each bristle's slight curve and direction. Notice the grain of the wood back against your skin. This attention to detail roots you in the moment. You breathe ... in ... and out ... As you lay down the brush, you feel calm, in control of pace and process. The herbs rest beside the cauldron. Soapwort Saponaria officinalis was widely used in medieval Europe to cleanse wool or delicate fabric gently, even up through the 16th century. You take a few dried leaves or roots, crush them between your fingers. A soft, earthy scent rises, subtle, calming, clean without sharpness. You scatter them as the warmth seeps into the water, little wisps of subtle foam appearing where they float. If you choose to add a pinch of ashes, softened by soaking, you do so with a gentle hand. Medieval laundresses often use lye from wood ash or lime water for tougher stains, but for your gentle ritual, it's a mere whisper of cleansing power, just enough to support the fibers without harshness. The water simmers at the edge of warmth. Steam rises in silent clouds, floating upward and dissipating. You keep the hearth quiet. There is no roar, no clamor, only coals that glow soft red and embers that tick softly, ancient and wise. You imagine the feel of that warmth on your back, a gentle brush of comfort that does not hurry, does not demand effort, only awareness. Now you consider the items to wash: woolen socks, knitted or woven, folded neatly. Socks in medieval times, often called hose, were woven from wool and reserved for careful maintenance. For if washed improperly, they might felt or shrink. You handle them with care. They are heavy from dried earth and wear, but supple. You tuck them gently near the bucket. Next, the shoes, perhaps little more than bast-soled turn shoes or supple leather slip-ons. They are unassuming, familiar. You lift one and sense its shape. The leather is worn but not rigid. The stitch line soft beneath your fingertips. These are not fine shoes. They are daily companions, but cherished in their simplicity. You pause. With the materials prepared, you release a breath that has been held, your mind easing deeper, body settling heavier. You are here. At this moment, nothing exists outside this ritual. No events, no stress. Only the slow cycle of water warming, herbs steeping, tools resting, and objects waiting with quiet expectation. The water is now ready. Steam rises, soft and scentless. The foam from soapwort hints at lather to come. You dip the brush in, then run it gently along the cauldron's rich surface, listening to the whisper of liquid meeting bristles. It is your companion, ready to begin. With the preparation complete, the stage is set. Tools and water stand ready for the slow, mindful process ahead. Soaking, brushing, rinsing, drying, mending. The method unfolds in rhythmic calm. In the medieval household, these preparatory moments were taken with reverence. Water was drawn early in the morning as birds began their song. Fuel was gathered the evening before to stoke just enough warmth. Herbs were dried in summer, tilling their tidy stockpiles. Tools were cared for, handles polished smooth, bristles trimmed. These were not hurried activities. They were mindful, woven into the fabric of ordinary life. Now, settled in this bare courtyard, you witness the alchemy of preparation. Herbs releasing memory, wood holding water, leather and wool awaiting touch. Your breath is full, deep. Your heart calmed. The world inside you softens. You are invited to carry this sense of quiet renewal forward. As you dip a sock into the water, let it float. Let it soak, letting time move slowly here. The chapter ends not with thunderous completion, but with a breath drawn in readiness. We have gathered all we need. We have invited softness into our hands and water into our practice. The next chapter will arrive, in time each stage having its own gentle duration. For now, we simply rest in the feeling of preparation and allow calm to deepen. As dawn's earliest light filters the narrow leaded window, you find yourself within a modest medieval chamber. The hearth's embers glow softly in the corner, their warmth echoing across the rough-hewn plank floor. Here in this gentle stillness, you begin the ritual of caring for your woolen socks. A task so simple, yet steeped in centuries of quiet domestic rhythm. Leaning forward, you draw fresh water from a nearby well, its chill brushing your palms as it fills the wooden bucket. There, the water pools in still swirls, ready to cradle the textiles you will soon immerse. Set beside the bucket, your socks rest hand-knit from coarse, homespun wool, their twin shapes folded with thoughtful deliberation. You lift the first, turning it slowly between your fingers. The wool has softened with wear, but remains textured, its tiny loops catching the light. You inhale and imagine the fibers still warm from yesterday's journey across pebbled roads or grassy paths. Each step has left its marked specks of soil, the faint memory of damp earth, but now these elements will gently dissolve in the water's embrace. Softly, almost reverently, you slide the sock beneath the surface. The water accepts it with a muted slosh. Threads release their tension, fibers uncoil and breathe. Bubbles form around the stitch's tiny spheres of breath, rising through the liquid, then drift upward to the surface and disappear. The coolness seeps in, and you feel the day's weight lift from your shoulders. A moment of grace. You draw in a measured breath. Inhale. Exhale. The act of immersion becomes a meditation, each pulse of breath sensing with the rising and falling of water. You reach for the second sock. As you lay it beside its partner in the bucket, the pair float like small islands of wool, drifting gently together. The movement is subtle. The world holds its breath. Now comes the pause of space for silent observation. You trace the play of light on ripples. You watch shadows shift across the wooden walls, as if the room itself leans in, curious. Slowly, you lower your hand to stir the water. A small handful turns the content, coaxing the fibers to mingle with the liquid. You push down one sock, then the other, swirling until each part is equally soaked, equally held. This first step soaking resembles an ancient rite. It is not hurried, but carried out with gentle purpose. You linger here while the minutes pass, aware of how water absorbs, how wool softens, how the simple act of waiting blooms into calm. In medieval homes, this patience was necessary. There were no machines to hurry along, only this steady unfolding of time. In more resourceful households, the bucket might carry traces of soapwort or the pale foam of lye derived from wood ashes. These natural cleansers, known to careful housewives, would mingle in soft proportions, just enough to coax away grime without felting the delicate wool. In your mind's eye, you imagine soapwort blossoms creamy, gentle floating in your soak. Though unseen, their essence infuses the water with a mild vegetable softness. You imagine this subtle scent, a whisper of meadow, a tint of earth. Submerge the socks again. The water responds. The wool warms, grows pliant. The liquid around them becomes clouded with faint traces of wear, but this is welcome. It's evidence that the fibers are yielding what it is that must now be released. That's all the soapwort or ash-laced infusion does. It helps the wool to exhale its past. In the stillness, you notice your own breath, how it fills the chest, how it empties. The ritual aligns you with slower forces, and you allow your mind to soften along with the wool. Thoughts drift in, then drift out. You hold no urgency here, only the steady song of now. Letting the bucket sit, you quietly press each sock beneath the water's surface in turn, feeling the fibers fold over themselves, releasing air pockets, growing heavier. You feel, perhaps, the tension in your own hands ease as you hold the fabric beneath the water. A kinship between care and calm, between tending and stillness. Time softens its edges. You lean back, hands folded across your lap, and simply wait. This waiting is active. It is noticing. It is kind. You watch the water's surface shimmer with the earliest morning light shards of gold, then dance and vanish. A bead of dew clings to the rim of the bucket, slowly sagging toward inevitable release. The moment pulses in slowness. After a time, which may be minutes or hours, measured only by the quiet rhythm of breathing, you reach again into the water. This time, your hand arcs motion toward the socks, lifting one gently. It feels heavier. It feels warmer. It holds within it a story of the night's movements, of feet walking the village lanes or standing at a hearth. You almost sense these echoes. Lower it back in and move it in a figure-8 pattern. This subtle motion helps water penetrate deeper into the fibers, ensuring that every thread is cleansed. The sock yields and you yield, and the process softens knot and memory alike. Occasionally, the wash water may become muddied or faintly colored. This is normal. You may lift one sock and observe traces of pigment remnants of rubbed-in earth, perhaps, or some other unnameable stain from the day. But you worry not. Each filament of that stain, now suspended, is giving itself to the bath willingly. And so you stir once more, hold once more, breathe once more. In medieval texts, such as the 14th century guide, known as Le Ménagère de Paris, homemakers receive counsel on gentle methods worked and verjuice for special stains. While those more complex rituals await a later chapter, the soaking phase remains pure and whole in its simplicity. Its value lies in its quiet passage, in its invitation to presence. The old words instruct not to rush, to treat wool kindly. You heed them with your own hands. You think, too, of cooler, damp fields where peasants trudged, or marketplace vendors pacing on flagstones. Those woolen hose or stockings would collect dust and dew alike. Only cold for the wash, they learned, for warmth might shrink or feel the wool, making it stiff. So their water was lukewarm at best. Your bucket's content follows that ancient wisdom. The degree of warmth is just enough to relieve wear and carry away residues, but not so warm to unravel the fundamental pliancy of the fiber. Drawing another breath in, you lift the second sock. Again, awareness of story and pattern of stitches that hint at hands and needles, of menders who might have stopped holes in elbows or toes. Each sock is more than cloth. It is memory woven. You hold it in the water and imagine the life it served. You imagine the hands that might have knitted it on balmy summer evenings, wool skeined from a sheep roving through pastures. Those hands, perhaps by hearth fire, winding the yarn in ever smaller loops, building fabric row by row. And here you are now tending to that very creation in the light of dawn's first glow. You let it float, drifting now translucent at the edges, the waterline lightened by the softened wool. And once again, you swirl both socks in unison synchronized movements. They drift apart slightly, then reconnect. You imagine them as companions. Soon, you lift one sock fully above the water. You hold it between your palms. Spun wool is now saturated, heavy with memory and the morning's promise of renewal. You let droplets cling and fall. You press gently to release some water, but not too much. You respect its shape. And now, the ritual holds this precious pause, where each garment is neither fully dirty nor fully clean. It is in transit, a liminal state, and the space between is where rest is found. You slowly place the sock back, tip wiping it beneath the surface until it settles. The second follows. All is soaked, all is tended. You lean back and close your eyes for a heartbeat. With breath, with stillness, you are exactly where you need to be. Soon, the time will come for the next stage. Brushing, the gentle coaxing of water through fibers to cleanse deeper, but that may wait until evening. or until the hearth fire glows stronger. For now, this sacred pause, this deep soak, is enough. You linger in the hush of early ritual, each moment stretching until it encompasses everything needed. In this slow, measured space, you sense the day's labor forming from calm. You sense that the care of these simple socks carries within it the care of self. You sense that even as morning light grows, the heart remains serene. When at last you rise, set the bucket aside, return cloth to hearth, know that all has already been changed. Not by heat or force, but by the gentle insistence of water and thoughtful touch. And so the day may unfold softly, and so perhaps the soul may too. You gently lift one woolen sock from its warm, herb-infused soak, feeling its softened weight in your palms. Water drips languidly from its fibers, anchoring your awareness in the moment, inviting you into calm. The sock, once stiff and dust-laden, now yields easily to your touch. In this hushed space, you breathe slowly, inhale, exhale, matching your rhythm to the soft pulse of the cloth. Here, in the stillness, begins the ritual of brush and fiber. Your fingers reach for the wooden-backed brush, bristles made of fine animal hair. Such brushes were common in medieval homes, especially suited to caring for woolens. You hold it with reverence, acknowledging its quiet purpose. With the gentlest pressure, you place the brush atop the wet fabric, beginning soft, circular strokes. There is no urgency. With each brush, the wool responds, dust releases into the water, the surface brightening imperceptibly. You notice the way the bristles glide, whispering across the threads, coaxing dirt away in soft arcs. In these circles, your breath aligns. In, out, as you work, the water grows subtly murkier, a sign that the sock is purifying. You do not shun this. It is part of the process. In medieval routines, simple soaps and herbal infusions were used judiciously. The water need not be pristine from the outset. It merely reflects the transformation underway. Reaching the heel and toe, areas tempered by wear, you linger. The fibers there are denser, the fabric slightly felted from years of use. You adapt, using lighter strokes. So much of medieval household wisdom stressed gentle handling to avoid felting wool and preserving its warmth and shape. You brush with soft patience, never forcing the fabric. Each motion echoes an unspoken respect. Every now and then, you substitute your brush with your fingertips. Where the brush cannot pry away a stubborn speck of grime, you pinch and massage the fibers. Your hands caress the wool, coaxing out what remains with gentle coaxing. It feels almost caring and intimate exchange, like a whispered promise of renewal. Medieval guides emphasize the importance of gentle attention, encouraging householders to preserve the integrity and warmth of their textiles. Indeed, in this quiet moment, your hands are healers, restoring integrity to fabric worn by years of life. Between cycles of brushing, you immerse the sock fully, swirling it around its cuff. Water eddies in graceful spirals, carrying away softened encrustations. You lift it again, brush resumes, rinse again. The process is a slow dance. With each repetition, the sock grows plumper, lighter, more receptive to your care. The knot tightens, returning toward its original form. Subtle fragrances drift from the basin soapwork and marjoram infused in the water. These herbs were medieval favorites. Soapwort for gentle cleansing, marjoram for its light fragrance. You sense their essence blending with warm water. It is not merely cleaning, it is perfuming, softening, revitalizing. The atmosphere shifts, lending a faint floral calm to your task. If this were a medieval household, those same herbs would mark both cleanliness and care in seasonal laundry routines. This slow motion continues. Brush, pause, brush again. You take note of the texture changes, the wool emerging softer, subtle peaks of fluff flattening, even by your strokes. You detect areas that still cling to lint, pluck them from the brush, restoring its readiness. Even cleaning the tool becomes part of your ritual. You reset it, ready for another pass. Your breathing slows further, the hush in your body deepening to match the hush of your actions. The world beyond this moment fades. The hearth fire crackles behind you, lending a gentle glow. The foam of bubbles stills in the water. Lint floats, then sinks. A feather-soft hush gathers around your breath, around your movements. A medieval laundress would know this hush. She would know that washing wool required not brute force, but gentleness, a soft ripple of touch, and acceptance of time. Each motion extended patience, each repetition a small ceremony of renewal. You echo that slow, patient echo, honoring the cloth, the garment, the labor of love sewn into every stitch. The first cycle is complete. You cradle the sock in both palms. You stretch it lightly, confirming shape, pliancy, absence of tension. You feel the even weight of water as you maneuver your hands. Then you submerge it again, rinse more thoroughly. You lift it up, water nearly clear this time. Droplets sliding posture slow down its length. The sock glistens. You sense its fibers plumped, fragrant, cleansed. Now you begin the second sock. You repeat each motion with the same devotion. Immerse, swirl, brush, inspect, pick lint, rinse, repeat. The process invites gentle awareness. It is a slow melody of care. The room quiets. Your breath becomes shallow in a peaceful rhythm. This pair becomes twin beneficiaries of your attention, responding as though grateful for the calm. With both socks examined, brushed, rinsed, plumped, you move to the final steps. You gently press or squeeze, not wring the water from wool. You are careful to preserve shape, to avoid stretching. Then you shake each sock softly, encouraging loft in the weave. The wool breathes, regains form, readies for warmth. Focusing now on drying, you drape each sock gently over a towel or small rack. You choose a place out of direct heat, avoid harsh fire or sun. Medieval instructions advise drying near hearth poles or outdoors in shade. Your placement is thoughtful. A hearth window sill bathed in warm shimmer, but out of blazing reach. The moisture will evaporate softly, restoring shape and plump texture. In this hush of cloth and hearth light, you release your breath fully. The socks settle. Light shifts gently as embers glow. You feel your shoulders unburdened, breathing deeper. The ritual is complete, the items cared for. You rest your hands. The quiet is full, not with noise, but presence. The scent of herbs remains. The socks, once stiff and lifeless, now await tomorrow's journey, kind, soft, ready. The domestic rhythm has brought renewal not just to cloth, but to spirit. Perhaps this is why medieval routines held such quiet power. Each small action a balm for both fabric and soul. You pause a moment longer. Feel the slow warmth of hearth and heart. This is compassion, tiny but true. You let your breathing draw in stillness. Exhale softness. Your eyes grow heavy. You recognize the hush of sleep approaching. Soon you will rise to tend leather shoes, to rinse again, to mend torn stitches. soon another day. But now, here is enough. In this simple act, brush and scrub in gentle circles, you have softened both cloth and consciousness. You have created space for calm in a world of busy days. You stand. You leave the socks resting. You step back from your ritual with quiet reverence. The glow of hearth light warms the stone beneath your feet. Outside, the wind may whisper. Inside, the hush is unbroken. This is the legacy of simple domestic craft, unchanged in centuries, quiet in method, steadfast in purpose. Sleep approaches. The socks emerge renewed. So have you your breath deeper, your heart slower. Breathe in, exhale. Softly, the world around dims. The ritual is done. Let your eyelids close in this gentle aftermath. The ritual lingers in your bones. Woolen comfort wraps around your spirit. Tomorrow, these socks will tell of calm hands and time-honored care. Tonight, they rest, and so shall you. The moment arrives to turn our attention to the shoes, the quiet companions that have carried their owner through narrow lanes, fields brushed by dawn's dew, and the soft hearthlit warmth of home. These shoes are often simple, made of supple vegetable-tanned leather or sturdy cloth, stitched by hand and shaped by feet over time. Before beginning, we pause to notice their weight, the gentle crackle of dried dust along their seams. We breathe in the earthy scent of worn leather, inviting calm into our minds, steadying our breath. To begin washing, one might first use a dry, soft bristled brush crafted from animal hair and wood to remove the loose dust that settled during the day. Circling motion by gentle motion, the bristles sweep away fine grit from every crease. These strokes are slow, intentional, echoing the serenity of long nights lit by candle and hearth. There is no rush, it's simply care, quietly unfolding. When more persistent traces remain softer clay, stuck from village paths, or the smudge of soot, the next step is delicate dampening. A cloth, barely wetter than a sigh, is pressed into lukewarm water. The water drawn earlier and warmed by embers holds herbal notes from soapwort or yarrow we infused for softness. Only the gentlest touch is allowed. Bits of cloth dab at stains, the hand moving with deliberate grace. Water beads along the leather, cooling only momentarily before being gently blotted away, never saturating deeply. The medieval shoemaker taught that leather thrives on care, not abuse. Thus, one avoids vigorous scrubbing. Instead, a soft bristled brush or cloth lifts gently, easing away debris while respecting the hide. One moves slowly, along the vamp, under the tongue, around the heel. Let the mind dissolve into that rhythm, the tactile feedback of brush and hide speaking in hushed tones. Each sweep is contained, close to the material, and persuaded, not forced. In medieval homes, the water used for washing was often reused or blended with mild lye from wood ash small amounts, enough to lift grime gently but not harm the leather. Today, we might quietly visualize a faint swirl, straw-hued water in a bowl, turning clear as we wipe away the residues. Water is changed once or twice for clarity, but we sip gently at its warmth and earthy freshness. Next comes rinsing. One glides a clean cloth, only lightly damp, across the shoe's surface. The cloth rinses the leather, bringing back its natural sheen. To the touch, the leather feels smoother. The drying dust is gone, leaving behind the warmth of the hide itself quiet, pliable. Padding with a fresh scrap of linen cloth removes most of the moisture. Then a gentle stuffing of paper or cloth inside the shoe helps preserve shape. In medieval practice, scraps of linen or wool were used, soft, breathable, and nestled in their hollow. They calm curling edges as leather shrinks slightly when wet. We imagine filling the shoes loosely, not forcing them, but encouraging them back to form. Leave the stuffing in place while the shoes rest. Not every day did one apply conditioner, but in medieval times, people often used melted combinations of tallow and beeswax to nourish leather. A small portion, warmed on the hearth's edge, is then rubbed in light, circular motions, the oil seeping in. This isn't done to shine, but to revive suppleness and resist weather. The material responds, darkening slightly as oils absorb leather, becoming alive again. For our calm narrative, we touch on this briefly. Feel your finger trace the curve of the vamp, spreading warmth into the grain. Pause. Breathe. We leave the shoes, still stuffed and quietly oiled, near the hearth set off to one side, where the air is warm but not scorching. They rest there, basking in dry warmth, shaped by cloth inside and soothed by soft heat. Over the hours, the leather gradually dries, becoming supple once more. While waiting, one might sit gently by, noticing the subtle glow of embers, the faint scent of smoke, the soft creak of leather easing into its renewed form. If the shoes were made from cloth or featured fabric accents, attention must be a little more tender. One uses a barely damp brush, following the grain of the weave, returning it to soft openness rather than flattening fibers. Then, like the leather, the cloth is air-dried, gently reshaped by hand, brushed only when dry, preserving its texture and preventing hard spots. Each touch is slow, mindfully aware of the material's delicateness. Sometimes, midwinter or after rain, residual moisture lurks. One might notice a slight stiffness as the leather cools. At that moment, a faint reapplication of the tallow beeswax mixture still warm can be made to the interior edges. The goal is gentle, to restore flexibility, not to shine. With soft strokes, the leather relaxes again, even at lower temperatures. Buffing is rarely loud. In medieval practicality, deep gloss wasn't essential, but sealing texture was. So after the conditioner is set, a soft cloth, perhaps linen or uncolored wool, is used to gently stroke the surface with almost imperceptible pressure. These motions warm the leather slightly and smooth any remaining residue. We imagine it carried out in the soft, low murmur of lamplight. No urgency, just fluid motion. The shoes then rest until completely dry. One might visit them hours later, touch them to check for dampness. Feel the complete warmth now gone, the leather cool but supple. If fully dry, they are ready, filled with fresh lining or foot wrapping cloth, awaiting morning's dawn and the promise of gentle steps again. Within this care, the narrative touches on humility. Medieval shoes weren't fashion statements, but workers in quiet roles. Their cleaning was humble self-care. We linger on that sense. As we care for mere items, we care also for ourselves, growing gentle in turn. Each brush stroke is a breath, each wipe a moment of attention. There is no hurry. There is only presence. Ancient voices, though not quoted, lived through these actions. There was no shout of triumph, no dramatic reveal, only the simple satisfaction of restored function, of clean seams, supple leather. It was enough. In that echo of sufficiency, we can unwind. The shoe's quiet restoration mirrors our own. Let your breath follow the rhythm. Inhale as the brush glides up the toe. Exhale as the damp cloth releases its burden of dirt. Inhale as you rub in warmth. Exhale as you relax the shoulders. Inhale as you lay the shoes to rest. Exhale as you let go of the day. Soon, the shoes will stand, ready again. But for now, they pause in still comfort. So may you, so may we. May this soft unfolding of care, of slow tending, resonate within you as you drift further towards sleep. Picture now the bucket, worn smooth by use, filled with water that's turned cloudy from your gentle scrubbing. The time has come to move into the soft final stages of the wash, rinsing and wringing. This is the moment when linen meets promise again. Water rinses away the dust of yesterday, and cloth begins to breathe anew. You begin with the socks. Each one, warmed by time spent in water, may cling to your fingers with gentle resistance. Lift them carefully. Let the droplets fall back into the tub as you pause for a moment, letting your breath follow their slow descent. In medieval washing, one might have carried wet garments to a downstream basin or drawn fresh water again for repeated rinsing, allowing gravity and flow to ease away cleansing lye or herbal soap. In many homes, this was done in series: dirty water discarded, fresh water added, and rinsing repeated until the stream flowing from the worn fibers ran clear. Bring the first sock to your lips, or at least so low your breath drifts across it, and feel the final bits of dirt swim free. The herbal soapwort woven through its fibers quiets the water, lending it a soft, sweet scent. Wool, resilient yet delicate, surrenders the last traces of muddy dust. You note the texture with gentle scrutiny. Once coarse, it now feels buoyant, lighter in your hold. Lower it again into cleaner water. Repetition, rhythm, this is no chore. It is a ritual. Each sock moves from cloudy to clear, infusing the moment with intention, marked only by your own breaths and the hollow splash of cloth descending. Now, still holding a dripping wool sock, you prepare to wring it. In medieval instruction, garments were twisted to remove water, then hung up on poles or clotheslines. But this is not hurried, twisting no snap or tug. You cradle the sock along its length, folding it gently in half. With hands positioned like a soft cradle, you begin to squeeze, never sharply, always with care. Fingers press, water shifts, cloth compacts. Each turn, each fold, you smooths the fibers back into place. You pause, breathe, another gentle twist. You feel the sock lighten, water trickling into your palm. Finally, you open your hand. Small rivulets slide, a stream returning to the bucket below. The fabric holds shape soft, uncompressed, pliant. You set it aside for drying. Next, the shoes. Perhaps they are of supple leather with soft folds, or rough fabric bound to a sole. Either way, they enter the final rinsing stage. Cloth shoes may be lifted and dipped several times. Leather wetter only as needed receives a soft cloth dampened in fresh water, wiped carefully across the surface. Leather does not fare well soaked. Medieval care customs often emphasize careful wiping, not saturating. You rinse your cloth, wring it gently, and pass over the leather with patience. You feel the surface smooth under your touch, supple and even. Each stroke releases mild residue. The water carries it away. Once the water appears clear, you pause. Another mindful breath. In medieval rinsing, the process brought garments from basin to basin, downstream gradations of purity. Imagine that clarity first murky, then considered, then shimmering. Perhaps your feet stand on cool stones, Your fingers cradle wet cloth. You inhale the faint scent of herb soapwort, maybe a whisper of marjoram used to scent linen washing waters. Let that scent settle in your mind. It's time to press the shoes again, this time for moisture. Fold a clean cloth into your palm. Hold it against the damp leather and press. The cloth absorbs water, leaving the leather evenly moist but not sodden. Repeat. With each pat, the leather grows warmer, slick to the touch. Slowly, carefully, you shape the form once more, coaxing edges, stretching the vamp, smoothing seams. A quiet work of care, allowing the shoe to retain its shape as it begins to dry. Return to the socks now, already wrung. Lay them flat upon a clean surface, perhaps a rough wooden board near the hearth, or a low bench in the doorway where light and warmth meet. Medieval practice might have echoed this. Garments often dried by hanging on poles over hearths, laid across bushes, ropes, or wooden frames. In your space, the dry air gathers around the wool, encouraging gentle evaporation. You smooth each sock, easing wrinkles, aligning seams. The fibers feel resilient, ready again to be foot's companion. Pause. Let your breath drift with the wisps of steam rising from damp cloth. Feel how the air shifts around you. This quiet moment holds more than care, it holds calm. Through every gentle press, every soft stroke, tension unravels. You are breathing with cloth, tuning to its pace. Now, you praise the rhythm of wringing. Not harsh twisting, but slow coil and release. Each step draws moisture from fibers without harm. Wool and leather appreciate restraint. If wrung too sharply, wool can feel, leather can warp. But here, your hands are steady custodians, preserving softness and durability. Return once more to the bucket. You may carry out one final rinse-a-dip to ensure no wash residue remains. Watch the water shimmer, reflecting low flames. Then bring the garment back. Wring once more, folding with care. It's worth noting that in grand medieval settings, washhouses, lavoirs, fournages, the process might have involved communal vats and flowing systems to carry away dirt. Cloth and leather often traveled through a journey of barrels and basins. While your private ritual lacks industrial scale, it shares that essence. Dirt is carried away. Cloth travels from burden to clarity. The quiet of process prevails. Now, all that remains is to position items to dry. Socks, gently wrung, drape over a pole above the hearth. Leather shoes placed close, but not too near the warmth, shall coax dryness, but heat too fierce could crack. Here in the hush, the routine becomes a closing lullaby. In those moments before finishing, you might press fingertips to cloth or leather, feeling shape and texture. Each item is now free from water's weight, bearing only the echoes of yesterday and the promise of tomorrow. You stand aside. The ritual lies dormant for a night. Soon, dreams will find you. Pause here, breathing soft. The washing is done. Water's song is ending. You feel lighter as cloth does once clean. Each wrinkle in your mind smooths, each breath slows. Rinsed, wrung, set to dry, ritual complete. The cycle has aligned days, hands, materials, care. In that quiet, rest is invited. Let your vision dim. The bucket empties, socks hang still, shoes lie softly warmed. The hearth's glow dims. Your own eyelids grow heavy. You have rinsed not just cloth, but carried stress into water and released it through your fingers. As your breath settles into night's lull, Know the washing will continue tomorrow, another gentle ritual of care. But for now, silence, calm, sleep. The freshly washed socks and shoes now rest upon simple supports, perhaps a low wooden rack beside the hearth, or a slatted windowsill where cool air drifts in. The hearth's embers glow softly, offering gentle warmth that balances the residual dampness. In medieval dwellings, an open fire was often the heart of the home. It was a companion to domestic routines, its soft crackle a lullaby to evening chores. The hearth's warmth does not hurry the drying, it merely whispers encouragement into each fiber and fold. Linen-lined shoes and the undyed woolen socks gain strength through this slow release of moisture. Wool, naturally hygroscopic, releases water steadily, allowing each stitch and strand to relax. You might feel the quiet satisfaction of watching the fabrics regather shape. Socks' heels round out as they dry. Leather shoes soften and reassert their supple form. In warmer seasons, drying might take place in the dappled shade of a porch breeze. In winter, by the hearth, but never directly upon it, where heat could crack or shrink materials. This care ensures garments last longer and remain forgiving on the feet. To maintain structure, shoe interiors often receive gentle stuffing. Historically, scraps of clean cloth or dried grass were folded and pressed inside each shoe, supporting its shape. Modern reenactors use paper or use wooden shoe trees, though medieval people likely relied on carved wooden lasts or just cloth-wrapped sticks. Filling the shoes prevents collapsing around toes or flattening along the sole, preserving fit and comfort. As the shoes and socks breathe, the soft firelit hush becomes a rhythm that guides your breath. In, out, in, out. In this hushed atmosphere, small attention becomes an act of kindness. Once nearly dry, the next step begins. Mending. Medieval wear and tear on footwear was inevitable. Stones, muddied roads, even rough cobbles caused scuffs, loose stitches, or gaps in leather seams. Rather than discard, people patched, stitched, and reinforced what was worn. This practice reflected resourcefulness, thrift, and a tenderness toward belongings. You might imagine a quiet evening. A simple wooden table, a dim lantern, and tools arrayed a carved bone awl, a length of beeswax threaded linen cord, a small bundle of fine leather scraps, and perhaps a handful of beeswax for gentle sealing. Wizards of mending often began by inspecting each item. You lift a shoe softly, tracing your fingers along the seams and sole edges. You listen for hollow sounds indicating wear. Where leather is scuffed, you might apply a light dab of rendered fat or tallow, massaging it gently to replenish suppleness. If the sole has begun to separate, a small stitch may hold it back. Using a slender, strong needle, you pass linen thread in even stitches, securing leather layers. These stitches are quiet and steady, a tactile meditation. Hands steady, eyes softened in candlelight. Woolen socks with thinning heels receive the same attention. Gently turned inside out, the heel is stretched over a darning egg, a wooden or bone shape, so that the fabric lies smooth. A coarser weight thread, ideally matching old wool, is looped carefully across the whole, first in parallel rows, and woven back and forth to fill the gap. Darning is repetitive, even rhythmic. Each stitch is a soft click in your fingertips, a reassurance that the garment lives on. When patching is needed, a small wool or linen scrap is laid under or over the weak area and applied with slanted running stitches that camouflage the repair. This careful mending is both functional and soothing. A single stitch becomes a moment of focus, a reminder of continuity. The mind slips into gentle awareness. You attend to the feeling of thread pulling through cloth, the soft rumble in fingertips as wool wraps around the darning egg. For shoes, repairs vary. A loose strap is pinned into place and tightened stitch by stitch. A broken eyelet for lacing might have a leather patch sewn onto the edge, reinforcing the hole. Where a shoe's sole is worn thin, a small leather inset can be cut and carefully sewn into a channel cut around the edge. All of these tasks call for patience, precision, and softness. In their doing, you might sense the past fold into the present. Centuries ago, a medieval cobbler's apprentice or a peasant homemaker would treat their own footwear with the same care. As mending continues, you consider the concept of visible versus invisible repair. Medieval menders often sought to make repairs blend in, especially for everyday work garments. But sometimes the patch was clear, even decorative. A ribbon-threaded patch in a sock, or an extra leather insert in a shoe's vamp, perhaps even reinforced with vegetable dye. These touches, while unlikely loud or showy, spoke of resourceful skill. Today's visible mending movements echo the same values, attention, and respect for what wears, but in medieval times, the visible patch was quiet, modest, yet still a mark of care. Through the process, the heart's warmth deepens. Your breath softens. Time no longer feels linear, nor do you strive to complete. Instead, you drift between tasks, filling the next shoe, turning the other sock, aligning edges, threading the needle, pulling the linen cord snug but not tight. Each movement is an exhale, each stitching a candle's glow. If you lean back, mop your brow in a humble gesture, you might hear the roar of the hearth fade to a dull ember's murmur. The shoes and socks lie lined up before you, gently glowing orange, the repairs complete, their forms renewed. Before long, the last stitch is tucked, the thread trimmed, and sealed with a dab of beeswax. You brush ash from the table, gathering scraps. You blow softly to extinguish the candle, leaving the hearth to its dull warmth and your still-set mind. On the floor, near the hearth, a quiet circle of domestic comfort footwear, freshened, mended, and ready for tomorrow. Not perfect, perhaps, but resilient. In these final moments, the hush returns. You settle the tools aside, stacking the mended items. Maybe your hand lingers on a shoe's toe, feeling softened leather. Maybe your other hand drapes a cloth across the line of socks, blocking the chill. The hearth hums its last note. The house sleeps around you. You rise gentle, careful not to disturb the peace. You gather the items, place them by the door or small bench, ensuring they are accessible in the morning. All is quiet. In this moment, you share the same experience as medieval folk. A lived richness found in caring for everyday things, lovingly folded into night's rest. You sense the merging of ritual and craftsmanship, the harmony of soft light, slow breath, deliberate movement, and you feel a sense of closure, completion, reached not in hurry, but in mindful attention. The shoes and socks, now dry and mended, await the first footsteps of tomorrow. Their journey will begin anew, but tonight they rest. And you too, after tending this history, may drift into rest. Let your breath come quietly now. Let the soft echo of wood and thread, of hearthlight and patience, carry you. The world beyond is still. Inside, hearts and hands have done simple work, and now, gently, the night deepens. Soon, you may lay back under covers, warmed by body and memory. Perhaps you recall the touch of wool, the scent of tallow, the faint crackle of embers in a medieval hearth. You smile quietly. It is enough. Drift now into the soft beckoning of dreams as the chores of care give way to the rest your body deserves. The day is done. The routine is complete. Sleep well. You sigh softly as you gaze upon the freshly cleansed garments, the woolen socks now plump and warm from drying before a mellow hearth, the leather shoes resting in quiet patience on the soft straw beside the embers. There is an unspoken symmetry in this moment. The task that began with cold, still water has ended in gentle warmth. The cycle is complete, and with it comes a stillness you can almost feel descending across the small room. In medieval households, this closing moment of routine carried its own kind of ritual weight. The simple care of footwear, woven cloth and leather, was a tether between one day and the next. It bound the peasant in his cottage, or the maid in her mistress's hall, into a continuous practice of regard, an act both humble and profoundly human. Even modest items, socks and shoes, were seen as vessels for care, the human imprint on everyday things. As you place them to rest, you are, in your own way, honoring the quiet legacy. The hearth, once eagerly tended to with bright flames, now bears only glowing embers. They crackle softly, ceding their heat to the night air. Every so often, a spark drifts skyward, then fades like a whispered sigh. You watch it briefly, acknowledging how warmth lingers, then closes your eyes, trusting its gentle presence to soothe you. This hearthlight is a cradle for your thoughts and breath. In its glow, the world outside the small chamber feels distant, as if held at bay by centuries of devotion to hearth and home. Medieval laundresses and homemakers would have known this small epiphany too. After hours spent wading through troughs of lye or rubbing precious wool against wooden brushes, there came this, the settled hush, the release of ritual, the promise of renewal. Scholars tell us that large-scale washes, like the famous Great Wash, could be grim affairs. Drum like beating of cloth near rivers, cauldrons on open hearths full of soap ash solutions, the bark of anger it spills, and the laughter shared in muddy water. Yet even amidst the labor, there was a contemplative heart beating in simple preservation, turning the motor of routine into something steady and calm. Think back to the loosened fibers of your socks, plumped by steam as they dried, warmed by hearth and hearthside breeze. Once stiff with moisture, now they yield beneath your touch, the wool regaining a softness born of care. Imagine a medieval woman gently rethreading a tiny worn spot near the heel, her needle crossing golden stitch after stitch. In that small gesture, simple, so careful, she reaffirms the worth of these humble items, and by extension, the worth of herself, her household, her craft. In more affluent homes, even those minimal items, woven cloth, leather footing, were imbued with testament. A carefully cared for shoe might bear the fingerprint of refinement, even if still coarse. Medieval guides advise reusing wax or oil to waterproof leather cloaks. Leather treatments of beeswax and tallow stretched each pair's lifespan, honoring not just the maker, but the land and animals behind the raw materials. In caring for these things, medieval folk preserved value greater than price, a respect for limitation, for transformation, and for a loveliness born of endurance. You recall dipping your shoe once more in lightly dipped herb, edging you of a faint scent of lavender and yarrow, reminding you and these tasks were often communal, even celebratory in small houses. Conversations would ripple in that same water. The day's fortunes, a neighbor's calves, distant gossip shared through dozen pairs of hands. Wool and leather, when washed, became carriers of story as well as function. The final rinse you remember was always a moment of clarity. With fresh water drawn, you set about rinsing the suds away, watching clarity return to each gusset and seam. In quiet, delicate motion, the wetness fell from your fingers. And then there, the sponge-soft cloth used to pat shoes dry, each movement small and considered, like a hand passing over sleep-cradled eyelids. If the shoes could speak, they would murmur of the world outside. In response, you offer them the converse. Calm, shelter, rejuvenation. Drying is alchemy, a transformation of damp to drier, of soft to resilient. You might drape the socks over a low wooden rack by the embers. They give off a faint hiss of moisture hitting stone. Leather shoes are stuffed lightly with spare cloth to ease them into shape. As the night draws close, they breathe in time with the heart's own ebbing pulse. As the heat cools, you sense finality, warmth dissipating by degrees as tasks shift from action to memory. And yet memory is the greater hearth here. Each detail lingers. The smell of grass-clipped water from the well, the smell of ashes gentled into soap, the cool weight of leather in your hands, the firmness of wood-soled shoes resting beneath your feet in dawn light. These details are new again now, because you invited them gently, without haste. The day's friction is eased by the echo of ritual. In the earliest medieval treatises and later Renaissance manuals, we find hints of mindful pause. And Weiss and Goodman of Paris from 1393 remarks that outer garments need only brushing, not full soaking. That small counsel is less economic than artistry, to disturb only what must be disturbed. Your own today was an echo of that practice. Nothing more, nothing less, just mindful care. You let your breath settle further now. In the hush between embers, you feel safe. In the damp, soft blankets covering your legs, you perceive the quiet yield of cloth moved through water. In your chest, the heartbeat slows, unhurried, unpressured. Medieval laundresses said that once wash was done, peace came with the final rinse. You feel that now, deep inside. There is no grand crescendo, no great completion. Only the small release of a ritual is done. This is enough. This is rest. In every epoch, people have understood that the end of action has its own quiet magic. Not triumph, but relief. Not the finale, but soft landing. Your breathing echoes that. A slow exhale, an inhalation held just before silence. Observe how your eyelids feel, perhaps warm, perhaps heavy. Let the embassy of calm settle deeper. In a moment, you will close them. But before you do, imprint this on your mind, that you have completed this ritual not for spectacle, but for solace, that you have honored the ancient rhythm of care, gathering water, brushing cloth, patting leather, stoking hearth, returning comfort. Imagine the socks and shoes in their place, quiet, restful, ready. Their task done for now, and you ready too. A day's care sets the stage for what comes next. A medieval homemaker might have paused at the hearth and drawn a breath just as deep as yours, secure in her work. So let your breath match hers. Calm, content, complete. Hear now the embers sigh. A soft hiss fades. You hear nothing but your breath and this moment. Let it be enough. Let it hold you. You might feel quiet gratitude, perhaps for the warmth, for the task done, for the hum of hearth, or nothing at all but stillness. That is all it needs to be. Soon, sleep will nestle at your shoulders. Soon, dreams will wander through gentle lanes of memory and imagination, through medieval courtyards lit by fading sun, through hearth-warmed rooms with cloth drying in hush. There may be no story, no plot, just texture and warmth, memory and breath. You are part of the ritual too, the one who finishes what was begun, the one who holds the calm. Let this calm go with you into sleep. The embers dim, the water is stilled, the hearth is at rest, and so are you. At this moment, the record of care is complete. In this breath, you are home. Sleep well now, gentle soul. May your rest be quiet, kind, enduring. May your dreams echo the gentle wash of water and hearth. And may you awaken tomorrow with soft strength, ready to walk again, feet soothed, heart unburdened. And so we come to the close of this quiet ritual. The socks have gently dried near the hearth, fibers plump and ready for tomorrow. The shoes wait soft, supple, renewed in their leather grain. The bucket, empty now, sits ready for next morning's water. Notice the small pleasures you may feel. Legs still resting beneath blankets, the day's tension having slipped away like so much dirt washed from cloth, leaving you lighter. In medieval times, this simple act of caring for clothing and shoes, though humble, carried a sense of calm continuity. It connected one day to another, self to small community, present to past. Soften your breath now, deeper, slower. Let each exhale dissolve any lingering sense of obligation. There is nothing to do, nowhere you must be. Just this moment, this stillness. And as sleep approaches, know that what was laundry becomes lullaby. The gentle padding of socked feet past your mind. The faint kerplunk of water into wood. The cozy hush as leather settles. All of it softens now into nothingness, readying you for dreams. Good night, dear listener. May your rest be deep and restorative. May your dreams wander through quiet medieval courtyards, warmed by hearthlight and soothed by simple rituals of care. Remember, there is rest in routine and comfort in the care we take, no matter how small. Sleep well, and perhaps tomorrow you will feel those socks and shoes anew with the same gentle attention that carried them and carried you through the day before. Good night.